Yo, what's happening, business nerds? Dan Plata here, best damn bookkeeping, and you are listening to the Home Service Happy Hour podcast. We got Randy Warner in the house from AdhesionCo. What's going on, Randy? How you doing today, man?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Where are you in the world? I think I saw that you live in Spain.
Oh, I do.
Right?
I do. Yeah. I'm originally from the U.S., but
I've been living. Spanish accent sucks. You sound very American.
Yeah. My Spanish accent is really good, which tricks a lot of people into thinking that my Spanish is much better than it actually is.
Oh yeah,
yeah. My pronunciation is better than the average bear, which is a downfall I've learned because I get my first 3 sentences out and they think that I'm a native speaker, and so they ramble on.
Yeah,
they being the Spanish, right?
Yeah.
And then I quickly have to jump in and say, no, go a little bit slower, please. So yes, for the last 10 months, my family and I have been living in Valencia, Spain, and loving every minute of it.
What was the catalyst for? I guess let me go this way. Where did you come from? Like, where were you at in the U.S. and then why?
Yeah. So prior to Spain, we'd been living in Fort Lauderdale, Florida for 3 years.
Okay.
Loved life in Florida. We were about a mile from the beach. So loved doing life by the water and by the beach. And I love warm weather. But prior to that, we had done 10 years in Kansas City, Missouri. And I say done 10 years like you
not like hard time
in prison. Exactly, right? Because I learned quickly, clearly not quickly enough, but I really don't like life-affecting weather when it comes to things like winter.
Yeah.
Right. Like I don't mind the cold. I love I love snowboarding. I like cold weather activities.
Yeah.
But if I've got to shovel my damn car out of the driveway just to go get groceries or something like that, I don't want life affecting weather. That's after literally a decade of telling my father-in-law that you don't have to shovel the sunshine, because prior to Missouri, we were living in Tucson, Arizona, which is originally where I'm from.
Oh yeah.
And the worst thing that can happen there is you get like an inch of rain.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But what brought us to Valencia? So my wife and I had always talked about living in Europe at some point. And we've got 3 kids. Our youngest was 12 at the time. And so we were kind of looking at a 6-year proposition of like, okay, in 6 years, kids will be done, grown, and then we can do it, right? But then the reality of kind of like what would life look like 6 years from now set in terms of, so our oldest daughter is 25, right? In 6 years,
you're probably gonna have grandkids.
30. Yeah, depending on if they want kids, right? So we could have grandkids in the mix. We could have in-laws in the mix. Our youngest is 18. Do we really think that we would just leave our children behind to go off on this life that we wanted to? So then the conversation flipped to, well, what would it look like if we did it right now? And it quickly became, well, what a kick-ass experience to give our kids, right? Yeah. That they wouldn't ever, they could do it in the future on their own if they wanted to, right? But they were pissed at first. But quickly embraced it. Yeah. So at the time, our youngest 2 are boys, and they were a freshman in high school and a 6th grader at the time. And so ripping them away from their friends, they weren't ready to deal with that.
Yeah.
But both of them now say that they would not want to go back and live. They want to see their friends. They miss their friends and such. But so Spain specifically because we can be on the water. So we got the Mediterranean, and we decided we don't want to do cold weather anymore. So we've got Mediterranean. Spain has a very friendly visa program for guys like me who can work from wherever in the world. And Spain loves people who don't take jobs from locals, but pay lots of money in taxes.
Well, that's the perfect.
So they're happy with that. And then I always wanted to live in a country where I was forced to become fluent in Spanish. It's always been something I've wanted to do. I didn't finish college, and so my my level up, if you will, to expand my opportunities is let's go learn a foreign language. And literally overnight, almost double the number of potential clients that I can work with just because I can now speak their language. And so I'm well on my way there, but probably have another, 6 months to a year before I'm comfortable communicating about all things business in a language that is not my native language. So,
man, I don't have a lot of regrets. Even like the shit that I screw up, I find it like, it's lessons
you
learned.
learn something from it, right? Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't regret it. I'll just never do it again, sort of thing. One of the things I can definitely say that I regret is skating through Spanish in high school. And I just, it was one of those things. I use this analogy to people that do the profit first system where they like stash money in bank accounts. I don't mind that system, but I find it doesn't help business owners actually make decisions. It just protects them from themselves. And it reminds me of Spanish class where I would literally memorize the Spanish to English dictionary and vice versa. And I could take the whole test and get an A on it, but I didn't learn anything.
Yeah.
And I got A's, but I don't know shit for Spanish.
Yeah. Because you never had to use it.
I never had to use it. And
never had to use it.
Even in college, there was like a foreign language requirement at the university I went to, but you could get around it by studying abroad. I went and studied in England for a semester. Like I just avoided foreign language altogether.
That one shouldn't count. That one really should not.
It really shouldn't. It was such a cheat. I mean, it was a lot of fun and got to travel around Europe, and that was super cool. Don't regret that at all. I would do that again either way. That was super fun. But man, like there's just no substitute for like that ability to communicate and Spanish and just like Spanish / Portuguese and just like the being able to understand, they're not perfect translation.
Sort of romance languages, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it just like I'm turning 40 in a couple weeks here and I'm acting like the ship has sailed. Like I could clearly still go learn Spanish, but
you can't. I'm 43. I'm 43. I'm learning my official second language. So
you're proving it can be done. So there's still hope for me yet.
Yeah, I go to a local Spanish school twice a week and I do some other stuff online. And in my class is a 70-year-old woman from Russia.
Oh, that's badass.
Who is currently at my same level of Spanish. And at 70 years old, she's decided she's going to learn Spanish. So like you think 40 is too late. You got people out there like that are proving us wrong. So
that's badass. That's badass.
Yeah.
Do you, So Valencia, are you like a fisherman? Do you like getting out on the ocean, or are you just like a beach goer? What's
the beach? No. I mean, I like being on a boat. I'm not a big fisherman though.
Okay.
So yeah.
How do you guys have? Is it just open ended that you're over there, or do you have hey, we're going to be here for this long? What's the
goal? The goal is to be here for at least 6 years. Like we don't have a life back in the US anymore. Like we sold our house, we sold our cars, we sold literally everything except for what can fit in how big is it? Like 7 foot by 10 foot storage unit. Like it has like, mementos and like high school yearbooks and memorabilia and crap like that we didn't want to bring over here,
Yeah, it really forces you to go through your shit.
Yeah. So I mean, like we don't have a life back there to go to. Some people kind of, some people who choose to do this maybe maintain a bit of a life back there in case they want to plan to kind of pull the plug and say, oops, we made a mistake. And we know people that have done that, but we really didn't want to do that. And we had no intentions of doing that. And we're in it and we're committed. And years ago through, lots of therapy, our therapist accused us of being quote unquote all in people. And it's just proven to be really, really true over the years. Like
fair accusation.
We're going for it. Yeah. I mean, we decided to move here literally having never visited the city. Like if that gives you any indication.
All in.
All in people we are. Yeah. So 6 years, but there is some visa renewal processes that have to happen in the middle there. Right. So like my initial visa is good for 3 years. And then you've got a 2-year renewal. But then at that point, you're basically applying for a residency every 5 years. Okay. And then if I wanted to, I can apply for citizenship after 10 years. So, and if I already do 6 years, I might as well do 4 years. So four more years. So
you're already so close. At that point.
Yeah.
What about the kiddos? Like, is it expedited for them if they
get to ride my coattails,
something like that?
Sorry, I interrupted. You say that last part?
What, like you said, they get to ride your coattails. Is it different if you're like under 18 that you get expedited if you're a minor or something? As far as
so like basically, I would be like their sponsor, I guess you could say, right? So even like my wife is here because of my visa, my kids are here because of my visa, type of thing. Yeah, okay, like they're allowed to come with me because of it. They didn't have to do anything other than Spain wants to make sure I make enough money to like support my family.
Yeah.
Right. So I did have to like, qualify from an income perspective for that, but
Yeah.
that's about it. So
Interesting.
yeah. Yeah.
Do
And
they?
so these are all like new programs. Like literally any country that's offering things like this, they're all post-COVID programs.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In what I consider to be like the globalization of the workforce,
Yeah.
right? All of a sudden people realized that if they had a job that they could do remotely, why would they live in a place that either wasn't paradise or cost a lot of money if they could make the same amount of money living somewhere that was fantastic, right? Or maybe
Yeah.
they move around in like a true digital nomad lifestyle. But no, these are all programs. So Spain's got one, Portugal's got one, Italy's got one. There's probably another handful here in Europe that I'm missing. But the Philippines has one. There's a few countries in South America that have them now. But they're all born out of like the work from home that really became prevalent during COVID that a lot of companies held on to.
Yeah.
And so people, are embracing that lifestyle and the fluidity that they have to be able to, live somewhere else while still working, the job that they have been hired to do. So we'll see what will happen when it comes time for renewals and such like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to cross my fingers that nothing's going to change and we'll be able to renew just fine. I'd have a hard time believing that, again, that why would you turn down additional revenue when you're still protecting the workforce of, your citizens? I could see some other visa programs going away, but that one I would have a hard time believing that they would get rid of just from a logical
It's too
decision making.
advantageous. Yeah.
Yeah. But sometimes you have to throw logic out the window when you're talking about government processes too. So
Yeah, that's true. Very, very rarely with government processes does logic come into one.
yeah,
I feel like.
exactly. Yeah. So we'll see, but we're here and enjoy it. So
How is it? So my wife and I actually have had this debate. Like we live just north of St. Paul in Minnesota right now.
okay.
And I can run my business from wherever.
Mhm.
She works at 3M, but she's had roles there where she can do that from wherever.
Sure. Yeah.
So we've had that debate of like, where would we want to be? And we usually come back to here because her family is also close.
Yeah.
And I mean, we have a 9, a 7, and a 3-year-old.
Okay.
And the 9 and the 7-year-old are with grandma right now. They've been with grandma for the last 3 days once they got out of school. It's like, man, it's hard to substitute the in-laws sometimes.
Yeah.
So we've had that same debate about like, where would we be? And I am like very outdoorsy hunting and fishing. And so the Midwest is a good spot. It's a good spot to get out and tangle around and fill the freezer up. But yeah, we've definitely had that debate. We've just never pulled the trigger on anything.
Yeah.
How is it? I'm curious with the kiddos, like were your kids in sports and then going over to Spain, are they able to like keep activities and stuff like that going? Or like, how does that transition for them?
Yeah. It's not, there's a honeymoon period that feels a bit like vacation for a while. Right.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden you have to figure out the real things like going to get a bank account and going to get a new cell phone number and figuring out how to enroll your kids in activities. And you're doing all of these things in a language that, maybe you speak enough. And before we moved here, I spoke what I called vacation Spanish. I could order at a restaurant, drinks, get through like an all-inclusive hotel in Cancun, and I was fine.
Yeah.
Right. But I've never had to go to a pharmacy to get a prescription refilled. I had never had to, enroll my kids in, activities or whatnot. But to answer your question directly, so both of my boys are actually swimmers.
Okay.
And yeah, they have pools here and swim teams here and stuff like that. When we were living in Fort Lauderdale, they were really spoiled because they trained at the International Swimming Hall of Fame.
Oh, badass.
Which has an incredible facility, like literally second to none. And so then they came here and reality set in and they're training in, what they call like short course indoor pools that are not
like a 25 meter or what's
short course is 25 meters. Right.
Okay.
And, they had, 2 full size, Olympic size pools at the place they were at before, multiple millions of dollars poured into these things. And yeah, it's not that here, but it's good for them. For number one, they both love to swim, but then number two, sports is somewhere that you get out of your like immigrant or expat bubble, because it gets you integrated with, local community at that point, right?
Yeah.
If it's very easy to kind of find like, the safe people who are, kind of in the same boat as you are, right?
Mhm.
In the world of, Facebook groups and meetup groups, it's really easy to say, oh, well, I want to be part of the like international community here. And then you never,
You
meet
don't immerse.
you don't meet anybody who's locally or originally from here. And that's one thing that we, continue to be really, really conscious of, is kind of making sure that we don't get stuck in that bubble, because we're not here for a short time, right? The goal is to be here for a long time. And
Yeah.
I don't at this point, I don't have plans to go back in 6 years. I just don't know what's going to happen after 6 years. Really, the 6-year commitment is simply to maintain stability for my kids to finish high school here. That's it.
Yeah.
So,
Will your older kids stay there? Do you think they go back to the US? Have you had those? Because your older ones are what? They're pushing high school graduation now, it sounds like, or close to.
So my oldest daughter's 25. She's finishing her
Oh yeah, you
master's.
said it.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's finishing her master's program, which is why she didn't come with us, because she wanted
Okay.
to finish school there.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, and so she's finishing school in December, and she's going to stay there, at least for now. She's pursuing a career in social work, and that's not super transferable
Yeah.
outside of where you are, until, unless you get into like private counseling or something like that. That's transferable,
Yeah.
My oldest son, he'll be a junior in high school next year. So
Okay.
they're actually, kids are still in school here. They finish
Yep.
in about 2 weeks.
Okay.
And he has said he doesn't want to go back and live in the US. He would want to go back and visit. And
Yeah.
he's also mature enough to recognize the drastic difference in cost of continuing education here versus in the US. And so thankfully for, my pocketbook and his potential, student loan situation, he said that, if he does decide to go to college, that he's going to go somewhere here in Europe, not go back to the US.
What is like the cost comparison to go to school in Europe versus to do it in the US?
I mean, to give you an example, we have a friend who we've met here recently. She, within the last 5 years, finished a master's program in architecture.
Okay.
Okay, so professional degree. Her entire schooling, her undergrad and her graduate program, cost her $8,000.
That's even hard to put that into perspective. That was like that was room and board for a year. I feel like I don't even know if that included tuition when I was in school.
Yeah,
that's bonkers.
Yep, it's absolutely wild. And so when you look at that, and I have a college student right now, and so I know how much her school is costing us right now. And so you can't barely touch a semester for that, even at a state school. So to get
that's nuts.
A graduate degree for less than 10 grand is wild. And,
I'll pay that. I'll pay that one.
Exactly. So it's just it's a different perspective on things, right? It's, an educated populace versus the business of education, I think, is probably the biggest difference.
Yeah,
that's probably a different podcast, though.
Yeah, that'd be a whole series of podcasts, probably.
Yeah.
I want to get into AdhesionCo, but before we do, I kind of want to like go back down memory lane a little bit and have you tell us some stories about how the heck you got here in the first place. Working on home service business stuff, working on software stuff. You get to decide where you want to start that story, but give us a little like a buildup of how you got into software, how you got into home services, maybe some of the shit you screwed up and some of the shit you got right.
Yeah. So I'll rewind really far, and then I'll fast forward through probably 20 years.
I like it.
And then catch you up. So I mentioned I didn't finish college.
Mm-hmm.
Out of
by
high
choice,
school.
by choice, or because they asked you not to?
Combination.
It was mutual.
Yeah, they asked me not to. They asked me to go to a community college before I came back to the university, and I decided not to go to the community college, basically.
Yeah. Nah. Okay.
So out of high school, I actually thought that I wanted to be a doctor. So I enrolled at a university, at the University of Arizona in Tucson, and I started my undergrad in kinesiology because that's what you do
Yeah.
when you want to be an orthopedic surgeon. And I didn't love school to begin with. I like learning. I still, to this day, love learning. I
Yeah.
don't like traditional school, and I think there's a big difference there.
Yeah.
And so I looked at, after 6 months to a year of a little bit too much partying and not enough schooling.
Mhm.
I looked at the proposition of having 12 more years of school, and I decided I didn't want to be 30 before I was done with this.
Mhm.
And so I decided to, at the time, I thought I was taking kind of a break, and this was in 2001. So the reason I bring that up is because 9/11 happened in 2001.
Yeah.
And so this was the tail end of 2001. 9/11 had happened, and I was deciding that I wasn't going to finish school, but I didn't know what I was going to do. And so the very beginning of 2002, I gave myself an ultimatum. I was either going to get a job by the end of January of 2020 or January of 2002. And if I didn't have a job by the end of January 2002, then I was going to join the Marine Corps. And I'd already met with a recruiter and whatnot, and they were giving money away like candy back then, right?
Oh, I bet. Yeah, that
And
time.
so it was just, it was very, very appealing. And it was a solution, right? Well, it's January 28th of 2002 that I got a job. So I did not join the Marine Corps. I got a job.
Close. Cut that one close.
Working for, here's a throwback, working for America Online.
Oh, dang.
Okay, so
CDs
CDs used to get in the mail, right? Or maybe you'd pick them up at Blockbuster. There's another throwback, right? So you get your 30 days for free. And if you want to cancel after your 30 days, you have to call it in cancel.
Mhm.
Well, I was the guy that you would talk to cancel. Right.
I bet you had my job conversations.
I met my wife there, so like a good thing out of it. It worked out, right? I got a wife and 3 kids out of the deal, but
the old you don't regret it, but you'll never do it.
No, it was great. It was great. But it was really my start in sales. Actually, is the reason why I bring that up, because I was selling something to people who they've tried it and they decided they didn't want it, right?
Mhm.
Which is the hardest sales that I've ever done. Really only spent like a year there, but then transitioned to actually working in the telecom industry. I started working for Sprint. And for the next almost 20 years, I spent time in the telecom industry working for different companies, different hardware manufacturers, service providers, whatnot.
Yeah.
In the last 5 years, 6 years, whatever it was, 5 years, 6 years of my time within that industry, I joined up with a few friends and built a telecom consultancy that grew from 6 people at the time that I joined in 2016 to about 160 people.
Yeah.
Doing $40 million in revenue by 6 years later. So 2022.
It
was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chaos.
But in the middle of that, though, is really where like the transition from sales to technology happened.
Mm-hmm.
And the original gravitational pull towards technology was because I wanted to be able to leverage technology as a force multiplier to sell more.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working at the time with a number of like larger companies, enterprise, Fortune 500 companies that needed relatively sophisticated ways to be able to place orders and configure orders and things like that. And so I started experimenting with ways to develop what can only be referred to as things like a portal or a small application or something like that would enable them to quickly place orders the way that they needed to without my involvement, so that I could still sell without being involved. Right.
Yep.
It's fantastic, right? You're making money because you burned all this effort to make something one time, and then now you're selling it, right? And I've got a way to do it.
Yep.
And so that's my New Year's resolution in 2018 was to learn to code, actually. So I had kind of experimented in 2016,
More of that learning stuff.
2017.
You're doing more of that learning stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did. And I went through, some self-paced programs. I learned as much as I wanted to it got me to a point where I decided that I didn't want to actually pursue to change. I didn't want to pursue a career in development, basically.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be like a traditional programmer.
Yeah.
That wasn't exciting, because for me, the actual writing lines of code it's not sexy.
That's not.
It's really not. No, my jam is, how can I inject technology into your company to help you operate better or more efficiently than you are today, potentially with less resources, right?
Yeah.
And so that is really kind of a summary of Adhesion, if you will. And Adhesion early on had a different focus than it does today. It was kind of a blend between the telecom side of things and technology. I ended up leaving in 2023, I think it was. Yeah, I left that company in 2023 that I had helped build.
Okay.
It didn't end well. But it forced me to pursue things with AdhesionCo full time. And
at the time, was AdhesionCo just like a little side project you were doing, like a little side hustle thing, or what was the vision for it when you first started messing with it?
Yeah. Again, when AdhesionCo first started, it was actually Adhesion Technology, and Adhesion Technology's focus was on what's called, the term is UCaaS. It's Unified Communications as a Service, and it's if you've heard of companies like Ring Central or Open Phone or things like that, that's UCaaS basically.
Gotcha.
Kind of like these soft phones, and there was decent money. There was decent money to be made in that at the time, and there still might be. And it's something that the company that I was working with wasn't pursuing, but I saw an opportunity there. So I thought, hey, I'm going to go after this for a little bit. And then quickly pivoted away from that, to more of like the, where I'm focused at today, kind of on the integration and automation side of things, with a bit of system implementation. And I try to stay away from true development work, because it's just draining and really, really resource intense. But for the right project, it's hard to say no to something like that. So,
yeah. What led you down the path of a home service focus? Like, and maybe there's other industries you support as well, but what
I do. Yeah. I think it's the home service thing is an accidental niche, actually. So I think you work with a number of home service companies, right?
That's same niche. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So you're familiar then, most likely, with an application out there called Jobber.
Yep. Yeah, I see. Okay. All the CRMs are we get them all.
One of the most popular is Jobber, right? They've got north of 100,000 users, right? It's probably one of the easier ones to use. I'd say it's quickly followed by like a House Call Pro, right? And then for your guys that get way too big for either of those, they jump to Service Titan. And then half of them regret it and they come back. The other half stay and they love a bunch of money. You laugh because it's true, right?
It's so true. My buddy has a sewer and drain cleaning business, like a $3-4 million sewer and drain cleaning business here in Minneapolis, and he tried to use Service Titan. He's like, nope, fuck this, and he went back to House Call Pro.
I have clients that are doing north of $10 million that are still on Jobber today.
Yeah,
and it's fine, right? The problem is when you try to make the tool do something that it's not. Right, then you get into trouble, right? And I think that's where like guys like me come in. So it was the end of 23 actually. So about a year into trying to figure out what the hell Adhesion was and what I was going to do and how I was going to make money on a consistent basis. Because I was pretty good at making money inconsistently, right? But that's not good for business or keeping a family alive. And so back to back, just out of the blue, I had a couple of clients on Jobber who we were working on on integration projects for. And these are companies that they want to integrate Jobber with, like a dedicated CRM. They have a marketing automation platform for email. They've got, a follow-up platform for like review requests or sending out postcards or anything else, right? Most of these guys have, if they're doing, use your buddy as an example, right? If they're doing $3-4 million, they've got 8 or so applications that they've got siloed data in, and it's not consistent and whatnot. And so that's where I come in to, kind of help integrate the data sets between those things and automate the movement of data between those things based on when certain things happen. And so with these 2 projects, I quickly realized that the off-the-shelf integration options available for Jobber in tools like Zapier were really, really limited.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, or fortunately for me, Jobber doesn't and still doesn't have like a true open API that I could be able to integrate with.
Oh, I thought they did for some reason.
Well, anybody can join their developer program.
Okay.
And so like if you as an individual user wanted to quote unquote become a developer, you can get access to their API, right?
Okay.
But it's not exactly like well documented, right? You can't just go like generate an API key. Yeah, there's very little support, right? So I just wanted to see it, right? I said, okay, well, I want to see what's available. What could we do with it? So I joined their developer program and got access to it. And I started building essentially the integration that I needed for these 2 clients, and quickly realized, well, why the hell would I build this for 2 clients when I could just build it for all Jobber users and maybe make a few bucks in the middle there, right? Yeah. And so that was the back half of 2023. And then in 2024, I launched what's called Adhesion Connect.
Okay.
So Adhesion Connect is an app within Jobber's app marketplace that enables Jobber users to quote unquote listen for 26 different events that happen inside of Jobber, and then receive the data from that event to be able to integrate with really whatever application that they might possibly want to integrate with.
What are some examples of like the uses for that? I've got some in mind, but I don't want to like front run you. Like where do you see that coming into play most often?
I mean, I can just give you like examples that just recently came up. Bigger ones, especially if customers are wanting to, I guess it's going to depend on the specific industry within home services, but also within the same also within the ticket of home services, right? Okay. So like your very simple, like hey, we're going to pressure wash a driveway that's a 2-car driveway that's 25 feet long, right? That's a really easy, like I can quote that and move on type of a thing, right? Yep. But then you have your project-based business that maybe you want to manage a funnel or something like that, right? And so you can have you can have visibility into forecasted revenue from a funnel perspective. Those are the types of things that so Jobber's not a CRM. I say that out of the gates, right? Jobber is a field service management application. Yeah. And they do a really good job at being a field service management application. But they're not a CRM in the sense that they don't manage really good client communication.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
They don't manage lead flow really well. And they don't manage any sort of a pipeline, right? Like if I said, hey, what's your open quotes? How long has your oldest one been open? And, what are you doing to track the last time that you followed up with them? They don't do that, right? And so it's really just this quote machine that you can do it, you can quote, but then how many of those quotes that you didn't follow up on could you have potentially closed if you followed up type of a thing, right? So pushing data from Jobber once it comes in as like a request to say a CRM to manage that lead nurturing and then ultimately that pipeline once it gets quoted, I can successfully automate based on the actions that happen in Jobber. So in Jobber, or any other platform, right? But you stick with Jobber for a second, right? So with Jobber, the life cycle goes, request, quote, job, invoice, and then payment,
Yep.
right? And so if you think of those things, I can automate a funnel, automate a pipeline such that you don't have to touch those things in a CRM. You only have to touch them in Jobber based on the activity that happens in Jobber, but I can still get visibility into pipeline within a CRM and see what the activity is for when it was, quoted. And then basically I can manage my activity in a CRM just like I could, should, and would, instead of trying to manage it in Jobber that's not really designed to do it. And that's back to like, don't use the tool in a way that it's not designed to be used for. Like I tell people all the time, listen, I can go grab a really, really big ass wrench out of my tool bag and knock a nail into a wall to hang a picture. But I really should grab a hammer.
Yeah.
Right. So make sure you're using the right tool for the right job I say it way more often than I'd like to admit, but I say it a lot. So pipeline management is one. I'd say the other thing is on the tail end of, on either side of a client interaction. So you've got that initial, like, I want to make the best impression when a request for a quote comes in, right? So you get like a request for a quote. Oftentimes it's not about who's the best and who's the cheapest. Oftentimes it's about who's the fastest, right? If I have an immediate need because I've got a leak or I have no power at my house or my air conditioner went down or whatever the case may be, if I can accelerate that lead to contact ratio or that lead to contact time, if I can condense that as small as possible in the most like personalized and client focused way possible, I'm going to win that job 1,000 times more than the person who is waiting 24 hours to go into Jobber and click that little, hey, you've got a notification request because you got a new lead that came in. It's just not going to happen, right? Because that person who needs it right now has went on the internet and found 4 of your competitors and has submitted 5 forms. And it's going to be about who's getting back to them the fastest, who's giving the best, and who's giving them the best experience, not necessarily because you're the cheapest, right? And so I have what I call like a blueprint for this, right? That kind of outlines like, hey, these are the 5 things you need to do when a new request comes in, right? So a request comes into Jobber, right? That should be a lead in your CRM. That should kick off a notification to your sales team. If you have multiple salespeople, right, you can round robin that. And then the last thing it should do is it should hyper personalize an email or a text message, depending on your tool stack, that goes out to that client, letting them know, hey, thank you for submitting this. Here's our process. Somebody will get back with you. You can take it to the extent that like, hey, if I assign this lead to Dan, right, I can even say in that email, hey, your information has been forwarded to Dan on our, quote request sales team, whatever you want to call it. They will be in touch with you within the next hour. Let's say you got a business policy that says all new leads are followed up within an hour. If I set expectations with that client, right, then I'm not as that client, I'm not sitting there going, well, am I ever going to hear back from these people? Right? I know, hey, because I just got an email thanking me for my information that Dan's going to be calling you within an hour. Maybe even include Dan's mobile number, right? And then, hey, if I want to call Dan, how great is that? You now have a hot, warm inbound lead calling a mobile number of a salesperson. So that's thing one. And then the other side of that is, what do you do after the fact, right? Because reviews and referrals are golden, especially in the home service, valuable. Right? And so, you can leverage things like there's a cool company out there called Dope Marketing. As an example.
He's right in my backyard over here.
He is. Exactly. And so a shout out to the team of Dope Marketing, right? So I've done a number of integrations with those guys, right? To hyper personalize, right? Potentially like hitting neighbors, right? They've got a neighbor thing that you can hit. But then, hyper personalize like just a thank you, right? Like, hey, you just spent potentially hundreds, if not thousands of dollars with this company, right? Spend a few bucks, send a personalized thank you, right? And then depending on that, right, you can have essentially a post delivery of service follow-up sequence, right? Asking for reviews. You can then partition your reviews. If it's a good review, great. Hey, would you love it if you put that review on Google? If it's not a good review, because you don't want them to go on Google, right? Hey, we're sorry to hear that you felt that way. we'd like to schedule a call with somebody from our team to understand what we could have done better. Right.
Yep.
So it's kind of, I won't say gaming the system, right?
Little
But I've
interception.
seen some good ones there.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah.
And those
yeah.
are three like really like prominent ones.
One of the things from the bookkeeping end of the thing, the business thing, one of the things that I see often, and I help our clients try to measure, is their client acquisition costs or conversion rate or ROI on different marketing sources. And it's always a little bit of a challenge because I generally tell people not to sync their Jobber or their House Call Pro, whatever, with QuickBooks. It jacks up their QuickBooks. 99% of the time, they don't know what to do with it once it gets into QuickBooks, so it screws everything up. So I usually just tell people, don't double handle your data. Keep Jobber and keep QuickBooks cash basis. The downside of that is then all of your sales and lead flow data is in Jobber, and all of your marketing spend data is in QuickBooks. So I have like tracking sheets that I help people with. Yeah. Does AdhesionCo help like bring that lead data along with the marketing spend data? Like, can you get data back out of QuickBooks, or do you tend to tell people like push it into QuickBooks, and then we can get your acquisition cost and conversion rate data, from one place instead of two places? How do you see that playing out?
Yeah. So Jobber had, until about a year ago now, they had a QuickBooks sync, a QuickBooks integration that I wasn't a fan of.
Yeah.
Their new integration, some people don't love, but I think it's smart the way they've configured it. And they've configured it in the sense that it's only a one-way sync. Mm-hmm. So it's Jobber to QuickBooks only.
Yep.
I think a lot of problems came from people making changes in both systems.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I would say is that a lot of problems came from people, candidly, people trying to do the implementation on their own.
Yeah.
Right. When it's set up and it's set up correctly, it works fine. Right. But
it does. But I see, sorry to cut you off. I always see what I see them screw up is in QuickBooks, they don't know to create a deposit record. Like there's another step that has to happen in the QuickBooks side, and they end up duplicating all their sales because Jobber says, hey, here's these sales. And it's the payment records, right, that are accrual basis coming over.
Yeah.
But they don't know they need to match that with the actual deposit. And so they accept they accept the payment. So I've seen people with like, well,
I see what you're saying. Yeah. But that's not necessarily an integration issue. That's a person understanding bookkeeping.
Yeah. And I again, the reason I tell people not to do it is because 99% of the time they don't do it. And their data gets so jacked up. I've seen people pay so much in income taxes based on that little thing. Like they didn't, they think they made $400,000 this year. They know they didn't, but QuickBooks says they did because they've got all these duplicated sales.
They double counted revenue. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Which that's like an accounting risk, right? Most business owners didn't get into business because they're like, "Ooh, sweet, let me do some bookkeeping."
Yeah,
right? Nobody said that besides me. I said that, but everybody else just like to do their thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So the only way to do marketing, the only way to put marketing spend back into Jobber would be to essentially do double entry. Right. Because then you would have to enter it as an expense in Jobber.
Yep.
And that's not necessarily the right way to do it either.
Yeah.
Right. I would say you're better off having some sort of like a data aggregation platform.
Yeah.
Like you can do it with something as simple as like Airtable, right? That maybe brings in some data from QuickBooks, but then brings in data from Jobber. I've done a few dozens of those, right? Where you then can say, okay, here's, the problem though is, and this is, so I just launched like 2 weeks ago, I just launched version 2 of Adhesion Connect.
Okay.
And the problem with leads in Jobber is lead attribution.
Yep.
So I can know that I have, call it, let's just say you're doing pretty good and you're getting 5 leads a day. So you're getting 150 leads a month, right? I got 150 leads a month and maybe I spend a few grand or whatnot in advertising. If I don't know where those leads came from, I don't really, I mean, then I know how much a lead cost me.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily know where to turn the dial down and where to turn the dial up.
Yep.
So I don't really care if I spent $300 or $30,000 in a month. If if I don't know, if I spent $30,000 in a month, but all my leads are coming from the thing that I spent $2,000 on, I'm wasting 28 grand every month,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So knowing where they came from to me is more important than how much they're costing me.
Yep.
That's important, right? You want to know because you want to make sure you're doing profitable business. So you need to know how much your leads are costing you. But knowing where they came from, I'd say is equally as important.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So version 2 of Adhesion Connect has includes a free request form builder.
Okay.
And the reason and that really was born out of necessity, just listening to Jobber users. I probably had over 2024, I probably had 300 conversations with Jobber users, just listening to like what they needed, and what kept coming back was some limitations with Jobber's native request form builder.
Okay.
So I said, okay, well, let's go build something that works, right? And so, to give you an example, do you do any online advertising or anything like that, or?
Yeah.
Okay. So are you familiar, and you've probably seen it, right? You click on an ad and you look up in the address bar and you've got this string of a bunch of data that you don't really know what it means, right?
Yep.
Well, if you're on Facebook, right, let's say you click on a Facebook ad, it knows you came from Facebook, number one, but it knows which, ad campaign it came from. It knows what ad you clicked on. It knows all this data about you, right?
Yep.
Same thing if you click on an ad on Google or something like that, right?
Yep.
Jobber's native form doesn't capture any of that information if I embed it on my website. It does it if I just send them to this Jobber hosted form.
Yeah.
But if I'm even like a remotely serious home service business,
you're
I've got that form embedded on my site, and I want it branded with my colors and my logo and all that stuff, and their form doesn't let you brand it with any of your colors or any of your fonts or anything like that. And so I said, well, how can we do this better? And then how can we give it away for free? I mean, candidly, I'm giving it away for free because, it's a loss leader for me, right? I want to bring them into a paid plan, but how can I give them a really kick-ass tool at the same time that meets a need that Jobber's not meeting? And Jobber only gives you the ability to create one form, right? So let's say you have two different services, right? You've got a lot of home service companies right now, whether it's like a PE company coming in and grabbing like 3 or 4 different companies, or I had a conversation just earlier this week the end of last week, it was with a guy who he was in the security, home security business.
Yeah.
But he went out within the last year and he bought an electrical contracting company, and he bought an HVAC company. And so now he has this kind of conglomerate of home services. Now, listen, if I'm interested in HVAC work, I don't want to have to click through a form all about electrical work or all about, security work. I'd like to be able to go to a form that's specific to the type of service that I'm interested in, right? With Jobber, you can't do that. You can only have one form. You also can't have conditional forms that say, oh, I'm interested in this type of service. Now I go this. There's some great tools out there like responsibly and stuff like that enable you to do those types of flows. But that's, to me, I would only implement responsibly if I was wanting to deliver like a quote on demand type of a thing, right? If I can't quote my service on demand, then I don't think I need a responsibly type of a thing. You know what I mean? I just need a really good form capture. But my point in all of this is that one of the biggest things that was a non-negotiable for me was implementing the ability to have hidden fields. Because with hidden fields in your form, you can capture all of those parameters from your URL. So I know exactly where my leads are coming from. I know exactly what ad they clicked on, so forth and so on. And so I can log into Adhesion Connect, download a report with all of my requests, and I can see exactly how many I got during a certain period of time from exactly what ad they clicked on, exactly what campaign, exactly what source, so forth and so on. So I can take that, dump it back into how much I spent on each of those platforms, and then I can know exactly how much each lead cost me per medium or per channel, and then I know where to turn, and then I know where to turn the dial up and turn the dial down.
Yeah, I'm I'm like a stickler for that in our businesses. So in my previous life, we kind of had that issue. We had 7 different home service companies, different locations across the US. And so different forms on different websites. Granted, we were on service autopilot at the time.
Okay.
And they had branch functionality. It didn't work perfectly for us, but we did have to have like different forms on every single location's website. They were all like under one main website, but we had that kind of form issue and tracking issue. And even now I have an investment in a pressure washing business down in Florida, and we're trying to get their on Jobber, and we're trying to get that data out of Jobber. They do have responsibly connected to it, but a lot of times we end up getting the data from responsibly itself as to like where that lead came from. But we had a case, and this is just like back to the importance of tracking all this stuff. We invested almost $100,000 in billboards last year, which when we did that, I was like damn near shit.
Yeah.
It's hard to track, and people can't buy from it, which made me really nervous. Like in Minnesota, you can't have your phone in your hand. It's not like you can throw a QR code up on a billboard and somebody's scanning it, right? But that's why
all the attorneys have, hey, call 888-8888 because you can remember that, right?
Yeah, hell yeah. And so we tried to, like, the billboards, the design was great. They're very simple. It's a memorable brand. And so like, and we're asking, right, when we're answering the phone or when they're filling out a form, like we're asking for that lead source.
Yeah.
But it's such a subliminal, like ingrained awareness marketing thing. Like I said, we spent almost $100,000 on it. I won't get it exactly right, but we had less than 100 leads, only like 40 of them converted. Our acquisition cost was $2,500, and the average job size was like 400. It was like I mean, it was like you might as well lit $100,000 on fire. Except, and this is where I think like tracking and like looking at everything by source is so valuable. Our Google leads went from 500 to 1,700. So like and we didn't do anything different. So like the billboards clearly paid off.
Attribute 1,200 to those, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was, and granted, we still had to pay for the Google clicks because people are seeing the billboards, they're going out and searching, and then they're like, oh, these guys, right? Google local service ad, boop. Like you're going to end up paying for them a second time, but like if you don't pay for them a second time, somebody else is going to get them,
right?
So you might as well run those ads. What ended up happening to us is we just didn't have a sales process for that. Like I didn't realize. I would have never guessed the awareness part of that would have had such a draw. But it was so clear that it did. If we would have known that, we would have really boosted up our sales team. We had so many leads we couldn't follow up with. We could have used some AdhesionCo probably. That could have followed up with a lot of our leads. We're on Service Monster, which gets me to my next question is it jobber or bust, or is this something that you think can roll out in the future to other field service management softwares? And do you have like a plan to do that and a timeline to do that?
So there's two things. Adhesion Connect is just an application that helps you get data out of Jobber. That's it, right? But the core of Adhesion is actually a professional services side of things. The core professional service falls under the trade name of managed operations. And so with managed operations, that's really a integration and automation development, but it's also management and monitoring, because the dirty secret behind integrations is that they break, right? So you can go hire somebody on Fiverr. You can go hire somebody on Fiverr, pay them $100 to integrate something, and thing A or thing B or thing C, somewhere in that line is going to change the way that data integrates, or you're going to change the way that you input data, or you're going to have, an update for something, right? It's going to break. And then for the last 90 days, you've become reliant on this automation for your business. And now you're stuck until you can try to figure out who it was that you found or who it was that you hired. Good luck finding the same person that you hired before, right? And then if you hire the next person, they have to come in behind that person and figure out how that person implemented it, right? So I saw that as an opportunity to wrap up a service package around what I call managed operations that provides unlimited ongoing implementation and development, specifically around integrations and automations, but then layers in 24/7 management and monitoring, so that not if, but when something goes wrong, it immediately raises a ticket in our system to be able to address that, fix it. So you're none the wiser that something even happened, and you can continue business as usual. But then the important thing is an ongoing relationship. So every month I have a strategy call to be able to review current operations, what's changed, and look for opportunities to implement any other automations or any other integrations that could benefit, some part of the team. Again, it's how do we condense the time from lead to cash, right?
Yeah.
And either generate more leads, more referrals. Really, it's either generating revenue or decreasing costs. If I can't do one of those two things with an integration or automation, I'm not really sure why we're doing it then.
Yeah.
So, and I do that across the board. The focus is on home service companies, just because there's enough there to go around, right? But if I have somebody else that comes in that wants to work with me, unless they're, way far out there, I'm not going to tell them no, right? But I'm not actively like targeting working with anybody other than home service companies. There's hundreds of thousands of them. Why would I leave that space? And it's broad enough, right? And they all speak the same language. So
it's I spent a decade in the corporate world before I started running home service companies, and the catalyst that got me over the hump, and I'm like a risk averse dude. The catalyst that had me leave my cushy corporate, well-paying job with great benefits to like make half as much money and take way more risk was just that I don't see the home service industry going anywhere. Like, technology will be a tool in it for a long time.
Yeah.
But homeowners are going to continue to outsource more and more and more and more. Like, that's just what our generation does. My parents still mow their own lawn. I think it's hilarious, right? Like, my parents' generation, they're so inclined to like do stuff for themselves. And I have some of that too. Like, there's some pride in that. And I like getting my hands dirty and doing my own thing. But our generation is just so much more inclined to outsource stuff. And so I think the home service industry is a great bet. I don't see it going anywhere. It's going to evolve, and technology is changing it a lot. But like, HVAC is HVAC, and it's just not going to go anywhere. It's like, it's going to have to be there for a long ass time. So I think it's a great space to play in. Do you, have you tinkered with any other field service management softwares already that you're working with clients, or for now, are you just jobber focused as you're like building out your resources and such?
No, the two big ones that I run into are Jobber and House Call Pro. There's a third that's going to escape me that's a little bit on the smaller side that I have done a couple of things with. Ooh, I'd have to Google it. I'm not going to Google it right now. And then I've done a few things with Service Titan, just on but more on a project basis. I think the people that go to Service Titan, typically they'll have like a VA that they've maybe trained up to be dangerous enough on handling some integrations, right? And so they won't have a dedicated in-house resource, like a dedicated, technology manager or something like that. But they'll have somebody who can kind of moonlight to do that type of stuff, But I've done project stuff with Service Titan. I think between Jobber and House Call Pro, right? There's a significant number of companies on those platforms anyways. Where I find that I become too expensive for some people is for companies that are doing less than, say, $1 million a year, right? It's just not worth it, right? Maybe like a project-based like implementation, right? But from a professional services kind of a retainer engagement, they have a hard time justifying it. They don't see the value in it, right?
What packages do you offer? Get into a little bit more of your offering. What packages do you offer? How do you work with your clients? What's the general cost to work with you?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. So managed operations starts at $18.99 a month, and that's unlimited development, ongoing management monitoring, and then that continual strategy. It's a 3-month minimum commit, just because it takes a bit of time to get the things implemented to see some ROI and stuff like that. But after that, it's month to month. And so basically you've got, unlimited development resource to be able to continue to introduce and tweak and enhance the integrations and automations within your business for less than the cost of a VA, right? So a lot of people go and they'll hire a VA and they'll spend a couple grand a month on a VA. that has a fixed amount of time, right? And so my argument is, listen, you might still need a VA to do some things in your business that you need to have a human help you with, right?
Yeah.
But if we can do the work of 5 VAs with automation and integration, and now we're talking AI, right? I mean, I'm layering in leveraging, multiple different LLM platforms to qualify leads, to, turn out quotes, to, things like that.
Yeah.
The ROI is there if you leverage the service, right? If you don't, and you don't take the time, and I have clients that just don't care to do their strategy call, right? And that's okay.
Yeah.
They just want somebody to watch their stuff and make sure that happens, right? But the ones that really, really get value out of it are the ones that take the time to meet with me every month. It's usually 60 to 90 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And we walk through, hey, here's what you've got, here's what's working, what has changed in your business, because the reality is stuff is changing, right? Whether it's seasonality, whether they're growing, whether they're introducing a new service. I feel like a lot of home service companies are like, hey, I could just tack on this other service and make a few bucks here doing this. Right?
Yeah, I got the slow time of year. Let me just.
I have a client actually. No, they're not a client anymore, but I'm still on their email list, and they do landscape lighting and like permanent like eave lighting that everybody's getting into these days.
Yeah.
And I just got an email just within the last 2 weeks. They launched a pool company. Now they're in the business of like installing pools, right? So I feel like everybody's got.
I know who you're talking about. They're a client of mine.
Nice guy.
We're helping them build it out in QuickBooks because we're like, oh, we got to like change measuring this and measuring that.
There you go. He's a nice guy.
Oh, he's freaking great. We actually, I had a call with him before yours and I call here, but he had 2 pool installs to go do, so we had to bump it to next week.
That's really funny.
Yeah. Hilarious.
No, good guy. But yeah, and then but then the people that really take advantage of it, the ROI is quickly there. So
yeah.
And then on the Adhesion Connect side of thing, that's just a SaaS. That's a SaaS cost, right? It starts at like $39 a month and then goes up from there. So
yeah,
it actually starts at free. So
oh yeah, well you said you have like your free form kind of.
Yeah, so the free plan is a single form and then four integrations, 4 webhooks.
Mm-hmm.
And then it steps up from there, and you get like 3 forms and then like 12 integrations, and then $100 you get, I think, 7 forms and like 24 integrations or something like that. So yeah.
Are there you mentioned $1 million plus businesses you think are kind of like where it starts to make sense?
It's just what I've seen, right? I mean, I've seen people come in doing less, and here's what happens. They get a seasonal dip in revenue and they freak out.
Panic.
And they're like, I can't afford you anymore. Right?
Yep.
And so then they just end up, they can't weather the storm. So they look at that as an expense, not as an investment.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And when that starts to happen, then they just go away. And so I'm pretty upfront with people, right? I ask them, hey, what side of the company are you? Right? What do you do in revenue? I tell them exactly what I just told you. Like, this is what I see happening. Right. Yep. And so listen, as long as they're committed for 3 months, right? I'll work with them for 3 months. And if they need to, pause service or whatnot, and I've had people leave and come back, and it's okay. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's over the last few years, that's the break point that I've seen. It's not science, right? It's just more of an art of like, that's what I've seen work and not work. So
yeah, I find the same thing. It's like we actually we're losing a client at the end of this month, and we like rarely lose clients. Our attrition rate is ungodly low, and it's the one metric I track. Yeah. I mean, I track tons of them because I'm a finance guy, but it's the only metric I talk about with our employees. I try not to set revenue goals or profit goals. I just want them super concerned about delivering the best damn bookkeeping experience.
Sure.
But we have a client who's like a buddy of mine, and he's like, hey, I just found something cheaper. And I'm like, man, I think you're like, it's the baby in the bathwater thing. Like, you're thinking about this incorrectly. We should probably do a financial analysis so that you're more concerned about growing your business instead of cutting costs.
Yeah.
That is the knee-jerk reaction that small business owners make when times get tight. instead of doubling down and acquiring other businesses or figuring out another marketing lever, they start cutting and cutting and cutting and like shrink their way down. And so, and like, it's funny because I kind of feel like I'm like, man, I'm like the one thing that can help you.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of things that can help you, but I'm like
Sure.
the thing that can tell you what decisions to make to grow your business instead of have to cut things. But it's hard to get people out of that like reptilian mindset of like they get in the fight or flight mode and they turn in they just flight like it's a natural response. But it is, and I'm seeing it more and more and more. Really, like right now with just the uncertainty in the U.S. of like what the hell's going on in politics and stuff like that. And it's so funny. I have a friend that has some maid service businesses down in Texas. And she had said like her Houston business is crushing it and her Austin business is just sucking wind just because of like the expectations of like Austin is a very liberal town and they all think the world's ending. Houston's a very conservative town and they all think it's great. Right. And so it's funny. It's like we all live in the same world. But your expectations, it's the thing, right? Like if you look at what causes a recession, it's not like the pure economics of it. It's us as people thinking a recession is going to happen, and therefore we create a recession by like, we tighten up, right? And business owners do the same thing. Like we create our own demise sometimes because instead of problem solving and pushing harder, we do this, and it causes our business to do this. Like it's it's the natural response of like being scared and choosing not to do something. And as Geddy Lee from Rush once said, if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I mean, you're spot on. I think one of the things that revenue solves all problems. Right. I mean, I've had the fortunate experience to, be part of organizations that we really outsold our stupidity. You know what I mean? Like if you're making a shitload of money, right? It doesn't really matter if you're burning costs somewhere, right? But the second that you're not making money or you're not making enough money, then the thing to do is the quick answer is to cut those expenses, right? Whereas the best answer is to solve the inbound problem, right? Right? You don't necessarily have you don't all of a sudden have a hole in the bucket. You just don't have enough water coming in anymore, right? That's typically the problem, right?
Do you see, Randy? I'm curious. I got to wrap up here in a little bit. Actually, you mentioned landscape lighting earlier. My hard stop is I coach landscape lighting companies, so I got to jump off here to get on my coaching call. But I'm curious. Do you see, like in Europe, is there the same type of home service industry where you're at in Spain or across Europe? And are they using the same type of tools? Are they using Jobber? Are they using FSMs like that? Is it like another world to play in a funny way?
I think some of the barrier of entry for the software providers in the home service space are really due to language barriers. So a lot of these companies haven't.
Oh, where'd you go? I lost you.
No, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see anymore. Now it's just got my dumb face on the screen.
Yeah, I just got a notification that what just happened here. Hold on. How did
camera overview?
Oh, wait. No. Why is it saying? Oh,
hold back. On. Now you're back. You're on a different camera now.
I know. Yeah.
Randy's gone for a minute. The suspense is killing me. Oh, here we go. Here he comes. Let's see.
Can you hear me?
I got your audio back in.
Okay, good. Hold on a second. What the hell just happened here? My camera
technical
died. I'm pretty good at this technical stuff too, so hold on one second.
I am not. I am definitely just a finance dude. Technology. I need to have more kids, so I have future IT people in the house.
Okay, we're gonna come back in 2 seconds. I'm actually using a relatively new camera here, and for some reason it decided to crap out on me. So
it's a good test. Now we know.
No, it was terrible. I tested it earlier. And...
we put it through the ringer.
Yeah, apparently. Maybe we finish the last without audio or without video because I know you got to go. So
we can do that. We can do that.
We can stare at your face.
This is a weird episode too because normally I do this at night. My guests are usually in the US, and I'm drinking 3 or 4 beers while we do the podcast. I don't know the last time. I guess I do know the last time. I always take a month off of alcohol consumption between Thanksgiving and Christmas to like make sure I still can
reset the liver.
Yeah, and so I haven't done an episode of the podcast since then without a beer, and I joked that I was going to have a breakfast beer, but truly I just got coffee and water here. I was thinking about it though, but I'm gonna go for like a 5-mile run over lunch, and I figured that'd be tough to do with a beer in my gut, so I refrained.
There's a race. I don't even know what race it is actually. Where I think it's like it might be like a 12K. It's like a 12K, but you gotta chug a beer every kilometer.
I think that would be my type of run. I think I could figure that out.
Yeah.
I'd enjoy it. I'll put it on my to-do list. That's on my bucket list. Some people want to run a marathon. I want to run a 12K with a beer every kilometer.
There's another one. It might actually be in Chicago, so it'd be close to you, that involves eating like an entire box of Krispy Kreme donuts as well.
Oh, I have heard of that one. I don't know. Yeah. Sweets aren't my jam. Beers are my jam.
Yeah.
I got to find the beer one.
I just tried to switch cameras and I can't, so my apologies. But to answer your question, I think the biggest barrier of entry outside of English-speaking countries for these home service provider platforms is there's a significant cost associated with translating your app to another language. And so you saw Jobber to do this actually with their mobile app specifically when they translated to Spanish.
Okay.
Because they found that a large percentage of their mobile app users were native Spanish speakers, and so it was really good for user adoption for kind of the employees in the field.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, I have not run into working with clients in the home service industry in non-English speaking countries.
Okay.
So I've worked with clients in the UK. I've worked with clients in obviously Canada and the US. I've worked with clients and I've worked with clients in Australia.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that a lot of some of the primary applications that they're using to run their business, whether it's House Call Pro, Jobber, or any of the others within the field service management space, don't offer options that are not English.
Yeah,
I think that's probably the biggest barrier of entry for those companies.
Yeah, and I mean, like the home service industry exists over there, right? Somebody's out.
It does, yeah.
Somebody's out pressure washing stuff, and you just kind of wonder, like, you'll have to report back to us sometime. What software are they using? Like, is there a Jobber? You know?
Yeah, right. The French version.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I had the only time I've ever had somebody out, our dryer stopped working, and so I had a guy come out to fix the dryer. But that's it. I haven't had to talk with anybody else that would be providing some sort of a service that would need a platform like that. So, but that's the goal, right? Is I hope to be able to get involved with the local business community here and get engaged with that, and ultimately, I actually really want to help people who kind of are coming up, in the similar fashion that I did, right? Who are trying to figure things out and whatnot. So,
heck yeah.
Yeah.
I got a closing question for you. And then we'll wrap this thing up. But before I hit you with that, tell the folks how do they find you if they're interested in hearing more about AdhesionCo and doing a demo or whatever with you. How does somebody get a hold of you?
The easiest way to get in touch with me is by going to the website adhesion.co. It's not .com, so that's why it's AdhesionCo. It's adhesion.co. Otherwise, you can find me on socials as well, right? You can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. I've got an up-and-coming Facebook group that's out there. That's all things home service automation. On most socials, it's Randy_M_Warner. And if you just Google Randy Warner Adhesion, right? I mean, I think you can chat GPT that shit now, and my stuff.
I found you pretty quick.
I mean, it's not hard to find me. Yeah, my kids like to tell me, "Hey, Dad, I found you on Google." So,
wow.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
All right, closing question for you. I got to frame this one up. So let's just say the world changes tomorrow. Like you wake up and the world's different. Home services don't exist. Software integrations don't exist.
Okay.
You're in this, third dimension type of thing. And so you got to go do something. You just can't do what you're doing today. You can't do the telecom thing. You got to go like dig a new hole.
Got it.
When you wake up tomorrow, what are you gonna go get after?
I love this question. I enjoy solving problems and being creative in general. And in like from a 10,000 foot perspective, I like building things. So my high school job from when I was 14 to I was 18, I worked for a general contractor. And maybe that's why I like working with home service companies, right? I love people who work with their hands, and I swung a hammer. And so I always said, if I could make as much money doing what I do, swinging a hammer, I would go do it, right?
Yeah.
So I get to build stuff with my hands and be creative. And in same ways, like I've had this kind of analogy of like my desk, my keyboard is my workbench.
Yeah.
Right? Like I am making things every day. I just happen to use a keyboard and a mouse to do it. And I'm not like using different tools to make things. The other thing that I like to do is I like to cook. And I think that falls into the same line because again, I'm making something. I'm taking these raw ingredients and I'm making
to watch
like a beautiful meal with those things. So I'd either build really cool shit with my hands, right, in some way, or I would cook. I really would. One of those two things, and both of those things you could do even if like literally the internet ceased to exist tomorrow. So
I think the cooking angle is a huge motivation of why I love the outdoors. We have 4 chest freezers.
Nice.
And I have like a FIFO system going. I got the I got everything labeled. I know what deer it was. I know who shot it. I know where it came from. It's always fun, like especially when you're cooking with the kiddos, to be like, "Mom shot this one, and we got this one over here," and like then you tell the story about it. So I'm all about that food angle. That's super fun.
Nice. Yeah.
I got to jump here in a minute. Any closing thoughts, comments, anything you need to leave us with as we part ways, Randy?
Nothing specifically. No grand ideas, Dan. I just really appreciate you having me here today. I think, if there is like, I've dropped a few nuggets here that I'll just kind of revisit, right? One of the things that I'll continue to reinforce regardless of industry is to make sure that you're using the right tools for the right job. Right. So you've got, the right applications that are doing the right thing, whether that's, a CRM literally for managing your customer relationships, right? If you're field service management for managing your field service work, right? If you're marketing automation stuff, don't try to make the tool do the thing that it's not designed to do in the first place, and you'll be really good. The biggest example that I see of this is people implementing things like Go High Level and trying to bastardize Go High Level to do something that was never intended to do. If I can prevent you from doing one thing, it's that, right? Yeah. It's a great platform if you only restrict it to do what it is, right? And then paying for professional help is worth every penny you pay, as long as you validate and you get the work that has been scoped and is being delivered for you, whether that's bookkeeping, whether that's marketing, whether that's software implementation, software automation, right? Don't be afraid to make that investment in your business. As long as you've vetted the person you're working with and the service that's being delivered is the service that, has been promised, right? Don't try to do it all yourself. If you try to do it all yourself, you're never going to grow.
It's the ultimate way of like getting the expertise that you need without having to learn it all. Like you need to, just like you said with coding, it's like you need to know enough. But that doesn't mean you need to be the expert of all experts. You just need to know what to know about it.
Yep.
So I dig it, man. Well, Randy, thanks for coming on and spending a while with us. I super appreciate it. Home service homies, you guys know what to do. Work harder and smarter. Go earn yourself some pride. And this is a 3-show day for me, Randy. I still got a radio show to do today, and then I have a late night one too. So business nerds, keep tuning in. I'll be yapping all day out here, just kind of sporadically. I think 3:00 Central and then 8:00 or probably 8:30 Central. Solo kiddo duty tonight. My wife has got work stuff and a ball game, so I'm just running the whole show. Dangerous round. All right, Randy, have a good rest of your day, man. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. That was a blast.
Thanks, Dan.
All right. See y'all.
Cheers.